The great hall of the Galactic Council filled with beings from across the known universe. Today marked 200 years since humanity had fallen. The memorial service happened every year, but this anniversary felt different. Heavier somehow. Ambassador Veltar stepped up to the speaking platform. His blue skin gleamed under the soft lights as he looked out at the crowd. Representatives from 47 different species sat in silence. Some had tentacles, others had scales or fur, but they all shared the same sad expression. We gather today to remember, Veltar began, his voice carrying through the hall without need for amplifiers. 2 centuries ago, the human species made the ultimate sacrifice. They stood between the void swarm and the rest of us. They knew they could not win. They fought anyway. Above the crowd, holograms began to appear. Images of human soldiers in their simple metal armor. Pictures of their crude but effective weapons. Videos of their last battle stations around Earth, burning as they fired their final shots. A small creature with large eyes wiped away tears. Others bowed their heads in respect. Everyone knew the story. Everyone had heard it countless times, but it never got easier to hear. The humans were not the strongest species, Veltar continued. They were not the smartest. Their technology was basic compared to ours. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were primitive. But they had something else, something we all admired. He paused, letting his words sink in. They had courage. When the void swarm came from the dark spaces between galaxies, most species ran. We evacuated our worlds. We hid behind barriers and shields, but not the humans. They flew toward the enemy. They attacked creatures 10 times their size with weapons that barely scratched them. The hologram changed. Now it showed the final moments of the human fleet. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The camera captured human faces through their helmet visors. Fear was there, yes, but also determination. They kept firing until the very end. Captain Lee died holding the line at Titan Station, Veltar said, his voice growing stronger. Commander Park sacrificed her entire wing to buy time for civilian evacuations. Admiral Kang rammed his flagship into a swarm mothership when his weapons failed. More names followed. More stories of sacrifice. The audience listened in silence as Veltar told of humanity's final 3 days. How they fought without sleep. How they used their bodies as weapons when their ships were destroyed. How they sang their ancient songs over the radio frequencies as they died. The humans knew they were buying time, Veltar explained. They knew their sacrifice would let us prepare better defenses. They knew we would learn from their mistakes. They died so we could live. The hologram shifted again. This time it showed what came after. How the remaining species had worked together. How they developed new weapons based on human tactics. How they built better shields using principles learned from studying human courage. Because of their sacrifice, we stopped the void swarm, Veltar said. We pushed the creatures back into the dark. We made the galaxy safe. But the price was terrible, an entire species lost. Billions of brave souls gone forever. In the front row, Council Leader Haewon nodded slowly. She was one of the few beings old enough to remember when humans were still alive. She had met some of them, talked with them, learned from them. Humans were strange, she thought to herself. They worried about things that seemed silly. They cried at stories. They laughed at simple jokes. But when danger came, they became something else. Something fierce and unstoppable. Veltar moved to the center of the platform. Behind him, the hologram showed Earth as it used to be. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in patterns. It was beautiful. Now it was just another dead rock floating in space. We tried to save them, Veltar said, his voice growing quiet. After the main battle, rescue ships searched for survivors. We found empty stations, destroyed colonies, ships drifting without power, but no living humans. The swarm had been thorough. They left nothing behind. The crowd stirred uncomfortably. This part of the story always hurt to hear. The idea that such brave beings could be completely wiped out felt wrong somehow. Some say we should have done more, Veltar continued. Some say we should have fought beside them from the beginning. Maybe they are right. Maybe if we had been braver, humans would still be here today. He stopped talking for a moment. The hall was completely silent except for the soft hum of the air systems. But that is not why we are here, he said finally. We are here to remember, to honor, to make sure their sacrifice was not forgotten. Every child in the galaxy learns about human courage. Every soldier trains using human tactics. Every ship carries weapons designed from human principles. Behind him, the hologram changed one last time. Now it showed modern ships from all the different species. Sleek vessels with powerful engines and advanced weapons. Ships that could defeat the Void Swarm easily. This is their legacy, Veltar said, gesturing at the display. Every time we protect the innocent, we honor the humans. Every time we stand up to bullies, we follow their example. Every time we choose courage over fear, we keep their memory alive. The crowd began to murmur in agreement. Heads nodded. Some beings reached out to comfort others who were crying. The humans gave us more than time, Valtar concluded. They gave us an example. They showed us what it means to be truly brave. Not the absence of fear, but action in spite of fear. Not fighting because you know you will win, but fighting because it is right. He stepped back from the platform and bowed his head. The entire hall followed his example. For 5 minutes, nobody spoke, nobody moved. They simply remembered. When the silence ended, beings began to leave quietly. Some stopped at the memorial wall to touch the names carved there. Others left flowers or small tokens. A few simply stood and stared at the images of human faces, wondering what they might have been like to meet. Council leader Haywon remained in her seat long after the others had gone. She looked up at the hologram of Earth, still slowly rotating above the platform. I miss them, she whispered to herself. The galaxy is safer now, but it feels empty without them. They brought something special, something we lost when they died. She finally stood and walked toward the exit. As she reached the door, she turned back one last time. Thank you, she said to the empty hall, for everything. The lights dimmed automatically as she left. The holograms faded away, but somehow the memory of human courage lingered in the air. It always did after these ceremonies. It was as if their spirits still watched over the galaxy they had died to protect. Outside, the stars shone brightly in the darkness of space. Somewhere among them were the ruins of human worlds, empty monuments to a species that had chosen sacrifice over survival, but their story was not forgotten. It lived on in every act of courage. In every moment when someone chose to do what was right instead of what was easy, the humans were gone, but their legacy remained. And maybe, in the end, that was enough. Captain Taman stared at his screen in confusion. The readings made no sense. His ship, the Star Chaser, was on routine patrol near the edge of Council space when the communications officer had called him to the bridge. Show me again, Taman. Sighed, leaning over the console, Lieutenant So Young pointed at the display. It started 3 hours ago, sir. Very weak signal. Almost missed it completely. But look at this encoding pattern. She pressed a few buttons. The screen filled with strange symbols and numbers. They moved in patterns that seemed random at first, but something about them felt familiar. Run it through the translation matrix. Taman ordered. Already tried, sir. No match in our databases, but watch this. So Young switched to a different screen. I ran it through the old archives, the really old ones from before the Purge Wars. The symbols suddenly changed. They reorganized themselves into readable text. Taman felt his blood go cold as he read. The words. That is impossible, he whispered. The message was in ancient human code, the kind used by their military forces 200 years ago. But it was not just any message. It contained detailed information about Void Swarm movement patterns, current patterns, fresh intelligence that should not exist. Sir? So Young looked worried. What does it mean? Taman did not answer right away. He read the message 3 more times, checking every detail. The information was incredibly specific. It described swarm scout ships heading toward the mining colony at Kepler-7. It gave exact arrival times. It warned about new bioweapons the creatures were carrying. Get me, Fleet Command, Taemin said finally. Emergency priority. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Hyo-sung appeared on the screen. She looked tired, like she had been awake for days. "What is it, Captain?" she asked. "This better be important." "Admiral, I am sending you a data packet. You need to see this immediately." Taemin transmitted the mysterious message. He watched Admiral Hyo-sung's face change as she read it. First confusion, then disbelief. Then something that looked like fear. "Where did this come from?" she demanded. "Unknown origin, Admiral, but the intelligence appears accurate. If this is correct, Kepler-7 is about to be attacked." Admiral Hyo-sung was quiet for a long moment. Then she started typing commands on her console. "I'm dispatching 2 battle groups to Kepler-7, she said. "If this intelligence is wrong, someone is going to answer for wasting our resources. If it is right, double quotes, she paused. If it is right, we have bigger problems." The transmission ended. Captain Taemin stared at the blank screen. He had been in the fleet for 15 years. He had fought Void Swarm remnants. He had studied their tactics. But this message contained information that no living being should possess. "Lieutenant," he said to So-young, "I want you to trace that signal. Find out where it came from." "Yes, sir." "But it might take some time. The signal was very weak and heavily encrypted." "Take all the time you need. This is now our top priority." While So-young worked, Taemin went to his ready room. He pulled up the historical files about human communication systems. He had studied them before, of course. Every officer did. Human tactics were part of standard military training, but this was different. The encoding was more advanced than anything in the historical records. It used principles that were definitely human, but evolved somehow. Improved. His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent alert. So-young's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, you need to see this. The intelligence was correct." Taemin rushed back to the bridge. The main screen showed long-range sensor data from Kepler-7. 3 Void Swarm ships had just dropped out of hyperspace near the colony. They were moving in exactly the pattern described in the mysterious message. "Fleet Command is engaging now," So-young reported. "Our ships were waiting for them." The swarm scouts seemed surprised. On screen, they watched the battle unfold. The Council forces had positioned themselves perfectly. They knew exactly where the enemy would appear. They knew which weapons the swarm would use first. The fight was over in minutes. "Victory to Council forces," came the report from Admiral Hyo-sung. "No casualties on our side. All 3 swarm ships destroyed." "How did we know they were coming?" Taemin did not know how to answer that question. He looked at the communication console where the mysterious message still glowed on the display. "Lieutenant, any progress on tracing the signal?" So-young shook her head. "It is very strange, sir. The signal appears to have originated from the Forbidden Zone." The Forbidden Zone? Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. That was the old human territory. The area around Earth and the other human worlds. It had been quarantined for 2 centuries. Nothing lived there anymore. Nothing could live there. "That is impossible," he said. "The zone is dead. The radiation levels alone would kill any electronic equipment." "I know, sir. But the trace is very clear. The signal came from somewhere deep inside the zone, from coordinates that used to be ... She checked her readings. That used to be the human colony of New Sol. New Sol? Taemin knew that name? It had been one of humanity's newest settlements. A place where they had been trying to build something beautiful before the swarm came. The last report said it had been completely destroyed. "Run a full-spectrum analysis," he ordered. "I want to know everything about that signal. Power source, transmission method, even the age of the equipment that sent it." As So-young worked, more reports came in from Admiral Hyo-sung. The captured swarm bioweapons matched the description in the message exactly. The intelligence had been perfect. Too perfect. "Sir," So-young called out, "you are not going to believe this." What now? The signal is still transmitting. It is sending new information. The screen filled with fresh data. This time, the message warned about swarm movements near the industrial world of Vega Prime. It gave detailed information about their attack patterns and weapon types. Send this to Fleet Command immediately, Taman ordered, but even as he gave the command, his mind was racing. Who was sending these messages? How did they know so much about void swarm tactics? And why were they using old human codes? The most disturbing possibility was the one he tried not to think about. What if the messages really were coming from the Forbidden Zone? What if something had survived there after all these years? Captain, So Young said quietly, there is something else. The signal signature, it is not just human technology. It is human technology that has been improved, advanced far beyond anything in our historical records. Taman looked at the data flowing across his screens. Somewhere in the dead zone around Earth, someone or something was watching the void swarm, learning their patterns, predicting their moves, and whoever it was, they were helping the Council fight back. But why hide? Why use ancient codes? Why stay silent for 200 years and only now start sending intelligence? Keep monitoring, he told So Young, record everything, and start preparing a full report for our fleet command. As his ship continued its patrol, Taman could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The mysterious messages were just the beginning. Something was stirring in the Forbidden Zone, something that should not exist, but clearly did. Commander Jiwoo checked her instruments one more time. The stealth ship Shadow Walker moved silently through the darkness of the Forbidden Zone behind her. The crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Everyone knew how dangerous this mission was. Radiation levels are within acceptable range, reported Ensign Dongmin from the science station. Hull shielding is holding. Good, Jiwoo replied. Stay alert. We don't know what we might find out here. The Forbidden Zone stretched around them like a graveyard. Dead planets orbited silent suns. Broken space stations drifted in the void. This had once been the heart of human civilization. Now it was a monument to extinction. Commander, called Lieutenant Yujin from communications. I'm picking up those signal traces, Captain Taman reported. Very faint, but definitely there. Can you locate the source? Working on it. The signals seem to be coming from multiple locations. It's like there's a whole network of transmitters out here. That was impossible, of course. Nothing could survive in the zone. The radiation from the final battle had poisoned entire solar systems. Even automated systems should have failed decades ago. Movement on the sensors, announced Ensign Dongmin. Small objects, bearing 27 Mark IV. Jiwoo looked at the tactical display. Several blips appeared on the edge of their detection range. They were moving in formation, like a patrol? Configuration analysis, she asked. Unknown design. Hull composition suggests metal alloys, but the readings are strange. Almost like the ships are adapting to our scans. Adapting how? Each time our sensors sweep them, their signatures change slightly, as if they're learning to avoid detection. Wu frowned. That sounded like void swarm biotechnology. But these objects were too small and moving too systematically. The swarm didn't patrol, they swarmed. Launch probe Delta 7, she ordered. Passive sensors only. I want a closer look. The probe launched silently from their ship. It approached the mysterious objects using minimal power. The crew watched their screens as it transmitted data back to them. Visual contact, reported Yujin, putting it on main screen. The image that appeared made everyone gasp. The objects were definitely ships, but unlike anything in the Council databases. They had smooth, curved hulls that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. No obvious weapons or engines were visible, yet they moved with perfect coordination. Are those ... human designs? Asked Dongmin uncertainly. Jiwoo studied the ships carefully. There was something familiar about their proportions. The way they moved suggested human tactical thinking. But the technology was far beyond anything humans had ever possessed. Commander, the probe is being scanned, Yujin reported. The unknown ships have detected it. On screen, they watched the mysterious vessels change course. They surrounded the probe in seconds, moving with impossible grace. Then something extraordinary happened. Instead of destroying the probe, one of the ships extended what looked like a mechanical arm. It touched the probe gently, almost carefully. Data flowed between them for several seconds. Then the ship simply moved away, leaving the probe unharmed. "What just happened?" Jiwoo asked. "They downloaded our probe's memory banks," Dongmin said in amazement, "but they also uploaded something. The probe is receiving new data." "What kind of data? Navigation charts?" "Detailed maps of the Forbidden Zone," and double quotes, checking his readings again. "Safe passage routes? They're showing us how to navigate without triggering the automated defenses." "What automated defenses?" Her question was answered when the proximity alarm started screaming. All around them, ancient weapon platforms began powering up. Defensive systems that had been dormant for 2 centuries suddenly came to life. Their ship was surrounded by enough firepower to destroy a battle fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Jiwoo shouted but before her pilot could respond, the weapons powered down again. The platforms went dark as quickly as they had awakened. Something had overridden their targeting systems. "The unknown ships," Yujin said softly. "They're transmitting. Override codes, they just saved us." Jiwoo stared at the tactical display. Whoever was controlling those mysterious vessels had just prevented her ship from being destroyed. They had shown mercy to intruders in their territory. "Commander, you need to see this," Dongmin called out. "The probe data includes surface scans of the planet below. There are structures down there. Active structures." The main screen changed to show the surface of what had once been the human colony world of New Seoul. Instead of the radiation-blasted wasteland they expected to see, there were cities. Not ruins, but functioning settlements with power signatures and atmospheric processors. "That's impossible," Jiwoo whispered. "The radiation should have killed everything." "The readings show the radiation has been cleaned up, neutralized somehow. And look at this," Dongmin highlighted sections of the scan. "These aren't just rebuilt settlements. This is advanced terraforming. The entire planet is being restored." As they watched, more data flowed from the mysterious ships. Star charts showing dozens of worlds in various stages of recovery. Industrial facilities that should not exist. Space stations that were definitely not in any historical records. "Someone has been very busy out here," Yujin observed. Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. "For 200 years we thought this area was dead. But someone has been living here, working here, building here." "Commander," Dongmin said urgently, "long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Multiple ships, much larger than the ones we've seen. Swarm." "Negative. These are different. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases, but they're not bioorganic. They're technological, advanced technological." Jiwoo made a decision. "Signal the unknown ships. Tell them we come in peace. We want to communicate." Yujin worked at her console for several minutes. "I'm trying, Commander, but they're not responding to any standard protocols. I'm getting something." A new voice came over the communications system. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent that made Jiwoo's heart skip a beat. An accent that had been extinct for 2 centuries. "Council vessel Shadow Walker, you are in restricted space. State your intentions." The voice was definitely human, but that was impossible. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. "This is Commander Jiwoo of the Galactic Council Defense Force," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We are on a reconnaissance mission. We mean no harm." There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again. "Commander Jiwoo, you and your crew are in great danger. Void swarm hunters are tracking your vessel. You must leave this area immediately." "We can defend ourselves," Jiwoo said. "Against 12 swarm bioships armed with adaptive plasma weapons? I think not. Follow the navigation data we provided. Return to Council space." Quickly, the transmission ended. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Void swarm vessels moving fast toward their position. How did they know? Dongmin asked in amazement. Plot a course using their navigation data? Zhiwu ordered. Best speed back to council space. As the Shadow Walker turned to leave, Jiwoo watched the mysterious ships on her screen. They were not running from the approaching swarm vessels. Instead, they were moving to intercept them. Commander, should we stay and help? Asked Yujin. With what? Our ship against 12 swarm bioships? No, we follow orders and report back. But as they jumped to hyperspace, Jiwoo caught one last glimpse of the battle beginning behind them. The mysterious ships were not just fighting the void. Swarm, they were winning, and they were doing it with weapons and tactics that were definitely human in origin, but evolved far beyond anything humans had ever possessed before their extinction, or their supposed extinction. During the long journey back to council space, Jiwoo had time to think about what they had seen. Someone was living in the Forbidden Zone, someone with advanced technology and detailed knowledge of void swarm tactics. Someone who spoke with a human accent. The implications were staggering. If humans had somehow survived, why had they hidden? For 2 centuries? What had they been doing all this time? And why were they helping the council now? One thing was certain. The galaxy was about to change forever. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from 47 species shouted at each other in dozens of languages. The great hall that usually echoed with dignified debate now rang with panic and fear. Councillor De Yoon stood at her station, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. 12 core worlds were under simultaneous attack. The void swarm had returned in force. Order! Order! Council leader Haewon banged her gavel repeatedly. We must maintain calm. But calm was impossible. The attacks were coordinated and devastating. Swarm bioships had struck at precisely the same moment across thousands of light years. Worse, they were using new weapons that adapted instantly to every defense the Council threw at them. Report from Vega Prime, announced Admiral Hyosung from the Military Command Center. Their orbital defense platforms are failing. The swarm bioweapons are evolving faster than our adaptive systems can compensate. What about the Terran Memorial Fleet? Asked Ambassador Veltar. Can we deploy them? The Terran Memorial Fleet was humanity's legacy to the galaxy. After the human extinction, the Council had taken their remaining warships and upgraded them with modern technology. They were supposed to be the most powerful vessels in the fleet. Already engaged at Kepler 7, Admiral Hyosung replied grimly. They're taking heavy losses. The new swarm bioweapons are somehow immune to human-designed tactics. Yun felt sick. The human ships had been the backbone of Council defense for 2 centuries. If they were failing, what hope did the rest of the fleet have? Evacuation reports, called out another voice. Andromeda Station is completely overrun, no survivors. New Tokyo colony has gone silent. Beta Centauri is requesting immediate evacuation. Support. The numbers kept getting worse. Millions of beings were dying, entire worlds were going dark. And the swarm seemed to know exactly how to counter every defense the Council had developed. How is this possible? Demanded the representative from the Rillan Empire. We pushed the swarm back 200 years ago. They should not be this organized. They've had time to evolve, Admiral Hyosung explained. To adapt, learn from their previous defeats. And they seem to understand our tactics better than we understand theirs. Dai Yun studied the attack patterns on her personal display. Something about them bothered her. The swarm was known for overwhelming assaults with no regard for losses, but this attack was different. It was precise, calculated, almost intelligent. Admiral, she called out. Are we certain these are just swarm remnants? This level of coordination suggests something more? That's what we're afraid of, Admiral Hyosung replied. Long-range deep space monitors have detected massive energy signatures moving in from the galactic rim. Whatever is commanding this attack, it's much larger than anything we've seen before. The main display changed to show a tactical overview of the entire galaxy. Red dots marked the worlds under attack. But beyond them, at the very edge of sensor range, something enormous was approaching. The energy signature was so large it barely registered on their instruments. Estimated time to arrival? Council Leader Hay1 asked. 6 hours, maybe less. And when it gets here, Admiral Hyosung paused. When it gets here, nothing we have will be able to stop it. The hall erupted in panic again. Some representatives were already talking about evacuation. Others demanded the deployment of every available ship. A few suggested surrendering before the slaughter got worse. Yoon tried to focus on the tactical data, but it was hard to concentrate over the noise. Then something caught her attention. A small blip on the edge of the forbidden zone. Admiral, she called out. Are those our ships near the old human territories? Admiral Hyosung checked her displays. Negative. All our forces are deployed to the active battle zones. That sector has been empty for 2 centuries, but the blips were definitely there. And they were moving, fast. Could be swarm forces flanking us? Suggested another officer. No, Dayun said, studying the movement patterns. These are moving in formation, like a fleet, and they're heading directly toward the largest swarm concentration. That's impossible. Nothing lives in the Forbidden Zone. Before anyone could respond, the proximity alarm started screaming. Every sensor in the council chamber detected massive energy spikes approaching from multiple directions. Unknown contacts. Dropping out of hyperspace, shouted a technician. Multiple vessels, configuration unknown. On screen. Ordered Council Leader Hay1. The main display flickered and changed. What they saw made everyone in the chamber fall silent. Ships. Dozens of them. But unlike anything in the council databases, they seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Their hulls reflected light in impossible ways, and they moved with a grace that defied physics. Are those ... Are those swarm vessels? Whispered Ambassador Veltar. Negative, Admiral Hyosung replied, her voice filled with wonder. Energy signatures are completely different. These are technological, not bio-organic. And they're broadcasting on emergency frequencies. What are they saying? They're offering assistance? The chamber erupted in confusion again. Unknown alien ships appearing in their darkest hour, offering help. It seemed too good to be true. Could be a trap, warned the Rillan representative. How do we know they're not working with the swarm? Their question was answered when the unknown ships opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out from their weapons, striking swarm bioships with devastating accuracy. In seconds they destroyed targets that Council forces had been unable to damage. By the ancient lights? Breathed Council Leader Hay1. Who are they? Dae-Yoon watched the battle unfold on her screens. The unknown ships moved like dancers, flowing around swarm attacks with impossible grace. Their weapons seemed to adapt in real time, changing frequency and intensity to match whatever defenses the bioships deployed, but it was their tactics that caught her attention, the way they coordinated their attacks, the way they anticipated enemy movements. It was familiar somehow. Admiral, she said slowly, run a tactical analysis on those ships. Compare their movement patterns to our historical databases. Which databases? All of them, especially the old ones. While Admiral Hyosung worked, Dae-Yoon continued watching the battle. The unknown ships were not just winning, they were dominating. Swarm bioships that had been unstoppable moments before were being torn apart with surgical precision. Analysis complete, Admiral Hyosung announced. You're not going to believe this. Try me. The tactical patterns match human naval doctrine, but not current human doctrine, advanced human doctrine. As if someone took human military theory and evolved it over centuries? Yoon felt her heart stop. That's impossible. Humans are extinct. That's what we thought. On the main screen, the battle was turning decisively in favor of the unknown ships. Swarm forces that had been overwhelming Council defenses minutes before were retreating in disorder. Incoming transmission, announced a communications officer. The unknown ships are trying to contact us. Put it through. Ordered Council Leader Hay 1. The voice that came over the speakers made everyone in the chamber freeze. It was speaking. Perfect galactic standard, but with an accent that had not been heard for 200 years. Galactic Council, this is Admiral Minho of the Human Liberation Fleet. We are moving to assist your forces. Please coordinate your evacuation efforts with our tactical data. The chamber fell completely silent. Human Liberation Fleet. The words hung in the air like an impossible dream. That's not possible, whispered Ambassador Veltar. Humans are extinct. We saw them die. Apparently, said Council Leader Hay1 quietly, we were wrong. On the tactical display, more ships were appearing. Hundreds of them, all bearing the same impossible technology. All moving with the same evolved human tactics. The humans had returned. And they were not the primitive warriors the galaxy remembered? They had become something far more powerful. The question was, what did they want? And why had they waited 200 years to reveal themselves? The War Council chamber was the most secure room in the Galactic Council building. Thick walls made of reinforced metal, electronic shields that could stop any weapon, guard systems that could detect the smallest threat. None of it mattered. The blast doors opened without anyone touching the controls. Security systems went offline one by one as if invisible hands were switching them off. Emergency lights flickered and went dark. Council Leader Hay1 stood frozen at the center of the room. Around her, military advisors reached for weapons that would not fire. Communications officers tried to call for help on systems that no longer worked. How is this possible? Whispered Admiral Hyosung. These systems cannot be hacked. Through the darkness of the disabled security grid, a figure walked calmly into the chamber. He moved with quiet confidence, as if he belonged there. As if all the advanced security meant nothing to him. The emergency lighting flickered back on, casting strange shadows across the room. Everyone could see him clearly now. A human male, tall and lean, dressed in armor that seemed to bend light around its edges. His face was calm. His dark eyes studied each person in the room with careful attention. Behind him, two more figures emerged from the shadows. A woman whose eyes glowed with soft blue light. A man whose left arm was clearly mechanical, but more advanced than any cybernetics in the Council databases. My name is Wu Jin, the first figure said in perfect galactic standard. I represent the Human Liberation Fleet. We need to talk. Admiral Hyosung found her voice first. You're human. But that's impossible. Humans are extinct. Clearly, we are not. Council Leader Hay1 stepped forward, her hands shaking slightly. How? We saw the battle records. We searched for survivors. Earth was destroyed. Your colonies were wiped out. Wu Jin's expression did not change. You saw what we wanted you to see. You found what we allowed you to find. The woman with glowing eyes spoke next. Her voice was soft but carried an edge of steel. I am Su Min. We have been watching you for a very long time. Watching and waiting. Waiting for what? Demanded Admiral Hyosung. The man with the cybernetic arm answered. Waiting for the right moment. I am Kyung Ho. And the right moment has arrived. Council Leader Hay1 tried to process what she was hearing. You've been hiding for 200 years? Why? Because we learned something during the First War, Wu Jin explained. Something the rest of the galaxy did not understand. The Void Swarm was not the real enemy. They were scouts. Advanced forces for something much worse. He gestured, and the room's main display activated without anyone touching the controls. Images appeared showing the massive energy signature approaching from the galactic rim. That is the real enemy, Wu Jin continued. The Swarm Masters. The beings who created the bioships you have been fighting. They sent the first wave to test your defenses, to learn your capabilities, to prepare for conquest. Su Min stepped closer to the display. Her glowing eyes seemed to interface directly with the computer systems. When we realized this during the First War, we made a difficult choice. We could fight openly and die with honor, or we could disappear and prepare. Prepare how? Asked Admiral HYO-Sung.Kyung-Ho's cybernetic arm moved, and suddenly every screen in the room came alive with data. Technical specifications that were far beyond current galactic technology. Ship designs that seemed to blend science and art. Weapon systems that operated on principles the Council had never seen. "We evolved," he said simply. "While you rebuilt using old methods, we started over. We developed new technologies. New ways of thinking, new ways of fighting." "The Forbidden Zone," breathed Admiral Hyosung. "You've been living in the Forbidden Zone all this time. Among other places," Wu Jin confirmed. "We established hidden colonies throughout the galaxy. Deep space habitats, pocket dimensions, mobile city ships that exist between normal space and hyperspace." Council Leader Haewon stared at him. "But why hide? Why let us think you were dead?" "We mourned you. We honored your sacrifice." For the first time, Wu Jin's calm expression showed emotion. Pain flickered in his eyes. "Because we had to become something else," he said quietly. "The humans you knew could not defeat what is coming. We had to change, to evolve, to become more than we were." Su Min's glowing eyes pulsed brighter. "The process was not easy. Many of us did not survive the transformations. Others chose to remain unchanged and died of old age centuries ago. What you see now are the descendants of those who adapted." "Adapted how?" Admiral Hyosung asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know the answer. Kyung-Ho's cybernetic arm split open, revealing complex machinery that seemed to flow like liquid. "We integrated with our technology. We enhanced our biology. We expanded our consciousness. We became something new." The displays around the room changed again. Now they showed human colonies hidden throughout the galaxy. Millions of people living in secret, cities that existed in folded space. Fleets of ships that could phase in and out of reality. 200 years of preparation, Wu Jin said. 200 years of evolution. We studied the Swarm Masters. We learned their weaknesses. We developed weapons that can actually hurt them. And now? Council Leader Haewon asked. "Now we fight together," Su Min replied. "The Swarm Masters are here. In 6 hours they will begin their final assault. Without our help, every living being in this galaxy will be dead within a week." Admiral Hyosung looked at the tactical data flowing across the screens. The human technology was incredible, but the approaching enemy was enormous. "Can we win?" she asked. "We can try," Wu Jin answered, "but it will require complete cooperation. You must trust us, follow our lead, and accept that the galaxy is about to change forever." Kyung-Ho's arm reconfigured itself again, becoming a complex interface device. "We are already uploading tactical data to your fleet computers. New weapons protocols, enhanced shield configurations, combat algorithms that will help your ships survive what is coming. Your weapons will be more effective now," Su Min added. "But they are still primitive compared to what the Swarm Masters possess. Our ships will bear the main burden of the fighting." Council Leader Haewon felt overwhelmed. Everything she thought she knew about the galaxy had changed in the space of minutes. "What do you need from us?" "Coordinate the evacuation of non-combat personnel," Wu Jin replied. "Prepare your medical facilities for massive casualties. And, most importantly, do exactly what we tell you during the battle. Hesitation will get everyone killed." Admiral Hyosung looked at the human technology displays again. "These weapons, this technology, you could have conquered the galaxy yourself. Centuries ago, why help us?" Wu Jin smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was a sad smile, filled with old pain. Because despite everything we have become, we are still human. We still remember what it means to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And because ... double quotes, he paused. Because this galaxy is our home too. All of our homes, and we will not let it fall. The lights in the chamber suddenly flickered. Alarms began sounding throughout the building. "The Swarm Masters have arrived early," Su Min announced, her glowing eyes brightening as she accessed the sensor networks. "They are beginning their assault." "Time to go," Kyung-Ho said, his arm transforming into what looked like a weapon as The three humans moved toward the exit. Council leader Haywon called out to them. Wait, how do we know we can trust you? How do we know this is not some elaborate deception? Woojin stopped and turned back to her. Because Council leader Haywon, if we wanted to conquer you, you would already be conquered. And if we wanted to destroy you, you would already be dead. The three humans disappeared back into the shadows, leaving the council members alone with their racing thoughts and the terrible knowledge that everything was about to change outside. The first shots of the final war were already being fired. The command center of the Galactic Council had become a place of miracles and impossible things. Council leader Haywon watched in amazement as Sumin stood before the main computer console, her glowing eyes connected directly to the quantum processing cores. This should not be possible, whispered Dr. Changmin, the Council's chief technology officer. No organic being can interface directly with quantum computers. The processing speed alone would burn out any nervous system? Sumin turned her head slightly, still maintaining her connection to the computers. We are no longer purely organic, she said calmly. The integration process changed us at the cellular level. Our neurons now operate at quantum speeds. Data flowed across every screen in the room at incredible rates. Star charts updated themselves. Tactical analyses appeared and disappeared in milliseconds. The computers were working faster than they ever had before. Remarkable, Dr. Changmin breathed. You're processing terabytes of information per second. How is your brain not overloading? Because it is not just my brain, Sumin replied. I am connected to the collective consciousness of my people. Every human in the Liberation Fleet is sharing this computational load. Admiral Hyosung looked uncomfortable. Collective consciousness, that sounds like the swarm? Wu Jin finished. Yes, there are similarities, but we maintain our individuality, our personal identity. We simply share knowledge and processing power when needed. Kyung Ho held up his cybernetic arm. The metal surface rippled like water, forming complex shapes and tools. The physical augmentations were necessary as well. Our bodies needed to keep pace with our enhanced minds. Show them, Wu Jin said quietly. Kyung Ho nodded. He walked to the wall of the command center, which was made of reinforced metal 3 inches thick. He placed his cybernetic hand against it. The metal began to glow where he touched it. Everyone watched in shock as his hand sank into the wall like it was soft clay. The metal reformed around his arm, then solidified again when he pulled back. Programmable matter, he explained. Our technology can restructure materials at the molecular level. We can adapt to any environment, survive in any condition. But you're still human? Council leader Haywon asked. Despite all these changes, Wu Jin was quiet for a moment. That is a question we have debated for 2 centuries. Are we still the same species that fought the first swarm invasion? Or have we become something else entirely? We remember being human, Sumin said, her voice carrying a note of sadness. We remember what it felt like to be limited, to be vulnerable, to fear death. But we are no longer those things, Kyung Ho added. We have transcended many of the limitations that defined humanity. The question is whether that evolution preserved our humanity or destroyed it. Admiral Hyosung studied the tactical displays, showing the human fleet in action, your ships. They move like living things. Are they also enhanced? In a way, Wu Jin confirmed. They are grown rather than built. Biomechanical constructs that respond to our thoughts and emotions. Each ship is bonded to its crew, sharing their consciousness. The line between organic and mechanical has become meaningless to us, Sumin explained. We are both and neither. We are what we needed to become to survive. Dr. Changmin was taking notes as fast as he could. The implications are staggering. You've solved problems we didn't even know existed. Consciousness transfer, quantum biology, programmable matter. We had to, Kyung Ho said simply. The Swarm Masters are not just technologically advanced. They exist on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Fighting them required us to expand beyond 3-dimensional thinking. Show us, Council Leader Haywon requested. Show us what we're really fighting. Su-Min's eyes flared brighter. The main display changed to show long-range sensor data from the approaching enemy. What they saw made everyone in the room step back in horror. The Swarm Master ship was not just large, it was impossible. It seemed to exist in several different dimensions at once, its structure folding in and out of normal space. Parts of it appeared solid, while other sections looked like living shadows. It exists partially outside our reality, Wujin explained. That's why conventional weapons cannot hurt it. You cannot destroy something that is not entirely here. How do you fight something like that? Admiral Hyosung asked. Kyung-ho's arm transformed again, this time into a device that projected a three-dimensional hologram. The image showed human weapons that looked more like works of art than military hardware. We learn to fight in multiple dimensions, he said. Our weapons can reach into hyperspace, subspace, and parallel realities. We can attack the parts of the enemy that exist outside normal physics. The cost was enormous, Su-Min added quietly. Learning to perceive multiple dimensions nearly drove most of us insane. Many did not survive the mental strain. Council Leader Haewon felt a chill. How many of you are left? Fewer than we started with, Wujin admitted. But each of us is worth 1,000 of what we used to be. We have become living weapons, designed specifically to fight entities. Like the Swarm Masters, are you still capable of emotion? Dr. Changmin asked suddenly. Love, friendship, compassion? The three humans exchanged glances. For a moment, their enhanced facades seemed to slip, revealing something achingly human underneath. We feel everything more intensely than before. Su-Min said softly, love burns like fire in our minds. Friendship creates bonds that span dimensions. And compassion... quote, she paused. Compassion is what drives us to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is why we hid, Wujin continued, not from fear, but from love. We knew that if we revealed ourselves too early, if we tried to fight alongside you with our old limitations, we would fail. Everyone would die. So we made the hardest choice possible, Kyung-ho added. We let you think we were dead. We endured 2 centuries of isolation and transformation. We became monsters so that we could fight monsters. Admiral Hyosung looked at the tactical displays again. And now? Can you actually defeat them? We will know soon, Wujin replied. The Swarm Master ship will be in weapons range within the hour. This will be the first time our full capabilities are tested against their true power. What if you lose? Council Leader Haewon asked. Then the galaxy dies, Su-Min said simply. There is no backup plan. No secret weapon we have not deployed. This is everything we have become, everything we have learned in one final battle. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Outside, space itself seemed to be bending and twisting as the Swarm Master ship approached. Reality warped around its impossible mass. There's something else you should know, Wujin said finally. If we win this battle, there can be no going back to the way things were. We have become too powerful to hide. Too different to simply integrate with galactic society. What does that mean? Dr. Changmin asked. It means the galaxy will have to accept a new kind of being among them, Kyung-ho explained. Beings who were once human but have become something more. Something that exists between the natural and the artificial, between the organic and the mechanical, between mortality and transcendence. Council Leader Haewon nodded slowly. If you save us, we will find a way to coexist. We owe you that much. And, if we fail, then none of it will matter. The proximity alarms began sounding. The Swarm Master ship had arrived. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Phoenix, watching reality bend and twist around the Swarm Master vessel. His ship existed partially outside normal space, allowing him to see the enemy in all its horrible dimensions. All units, this is Admiral Minho. He spoke into the quantum communication network that connected every human consciousness in the fleet. Remember what we trained for. Remember what we sacrificed to get here. Today, we either save the galaxy or die trying. The response came not in words but in waves of determination and resolve from thousands of human minds. Each ship in the Liberation Fleet was crewed by beings who had given up their original humanity to become living weapons. "Contact in 30 seconds, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Arin. Her body was more machine than flesh now. Her consciousness spread across multiple processing cores throughout the ship. "Launch the phase torpedoes," Admiral Minho ordered. The Eternal Phoenix shuddered as weapons that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously fired at the Swarmmaster ship. The torpedoes passed through normal space like ghosts, then solidified in the dimensional layers where parts of the enemy vessel existed. Explosions bloomed across multiple realities. The Swarmmaster ship writhed as sections of it that could not normally be touched were torn apart. "Direct hits," reported Arin. "But it's already adapting. The damaged sections are regenerating using energy from parallel dimensions." "Expected," Admiral Minho replied calmly. "All units implement Protocol 7, synchronized multidimensional assault." Throughout the Liberation Fleet, human ships began to phase in and out of reality in perfect coordination. They appeared in different dimensions, fired their impossible weapons, then vanished before the enemy could respond. It was like watching a deadly dance performed across the fabric of space-time itself. Meanwhile, Captain Yunji led her special operations team through the nightmare interior of a swarm hive ship. Her enhanced body moved through environments that would kill any normal being. Acid rain that could dissolve metal barely affected her reinforced skin. Gravity fields that should have crushed her bones were compensated for by her internal force. "Generators. Hive core located," she reported through the quantum link. "Proceeding with infiltration." Her team moved like shadows through the biomechanical corridors. Their bodies had been modified to survive in any environment, but more importantly, their minds had been enhanced to resist the psychic attacks that swarm creatures used as weapons. "Contact," whispered Sergeant Jaesung as hideous creatures emerged. From the walls around them, the swarm bioforms were nightmares made flesh. They had too many teeth, too many claws, and minds that radiated pure hunger, but the human team did not flinch. They had faced worse things during their 2 centuries of preparation. Captain Unji raised her hand, and energy fields erupted from her fingers. The bioforms dissolved on contact, their molecular structure unraveling at the quantum level. "Move," she ordered. "Core chamber ahead." They entered a vast space filled with pulsing organic computers. This was the hive mind that controlled thousands of swarm creatures. In the center, a massive brain-like structure coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. "Quantum virus ready for deployment," reported Corporal Insu, whose cybernetic implants interfaced directly with the hive's control systems. "Do it," Captain Yunji commanded. The virus spread through the hive mind like wildfire. But this was not just a computer virus. It was a quantum construct that attacked the very concept of organized thought. Within seconds, the entire hive lost cohesion. Bioships stopped responding to commands. Weapon systems shut down. The creatures began attacking each other in confusion. Back in space, Admiral Minho watched as 3 swarm hive ships tore themselves apart from the inside. But his attention was focused on the main threat. The Swarmmaster vessel was learning to counter their attacks. Its reality-bending defenses were adapting faster than expected. "Admiral," called out Commander Subin from the navigation station, "the enemy is charging some kind of weapon. Energy readings are off the scale." Through the quantum link, Admiral Minho felt the fear of his crew members, not for themselves, but for the billions of innocent beings throughout the galaxy who would die if they failed. "All ships, emergency protocol," he ordered, "full dimensional phase. We're going inside." The entire Liberation Fleet suddenly vanished from normal space. They shifted into a dimension where the Swarmmaster ship's defenses could not reach them. Then they materialized inside the enemy vessel itself. The interior of the Swarmmaster ship was indescribable. It existed in too many dimensions for human senses to fully process, even enhanced human senses. Geometry folded in on itself, time moved in circles. Gravity pointed in directions that did not exist. "Stay focused," Admiral Minho broadcast to his fleet. "Remember your training. Do not try to understand what you see. Just fight." The battle inside the Swarm Master ship was unlike anything that had ever been fought before. Human vessels fired. Weapons that erased sections of the enemy from multiple realities simultaneously. In response, the ship generated creatures that existed as pure thought, attacking the consciousness of the human crews directly, but the humans had prepared for this too. Their enhanced minds, linked together through quantum consciousness, proved impossible to break. When one crew member was overwhelmed, others shared the mental load. When psychic attacks threatened to drive them insane, the collective human will held them together. "Core systems located," reported Captain Han-Na from her scout ship. "It's protected by reality barriers. We can't reach it through normal attacks." "Then we don't use normal attacks," Admiral Minho replied grimly. He began the final protocol, the one they had hoped never to use. Throughout the Liberation Fleet, human consciousnesses began to merge together into a single, unified mind. Their individual identities dissolved into something larger and more powerful. The merged consciousness reached out with power that transcended physical law. It touched the core of the Swarm Master ship and began to unweave the very concepts that held it. Together, the enemy vessel screamed, not with sound, but with vibrations that shook the foundations of reality itself. Its multidimensional structure began to collapse as the fundamental forces that bound it were systematically destroyed. "It's working," someone reported, though. In the merged consciousness, it was impossible to tell who had spoken, but the Swarm Master ship had one final weapon. As it died, it released a wave of pure entropy that would spread across the galaxy. Destroying everything it touched, the merged human consciousness made one last sacrifice. They absorbed the entropy wave into themselves, containing its destructive power within their own beings. The price was enormous. Most of the Liberation Fleet was destroyed in the process, their crews consumed by the chaos they had prevented from spreading. As the Swarm Master ship finally collapsed into nothing, the surviving humans slowly separated back into individual consciousnesses. Admiral Minho found himself alone on the bridge of his dying flagship, most of his crew gone forever. "Status report," he whispered. "Victory," came the reply from the few surviving ships. "The Swarm Master is dead. All Hive ships have shut down. The threat is over." Admiral Minho closed his eyes and felt the quantum link connecting him to the survivors. Fewer than 1,000 humans remained from the mighty Liberation Fleet, but they had done what they set out to do. They had saved the galaxy. The cost had been almost everything they were. But for the first time in 2 centuries, the universe was truly safe from the swarm threat. Now came the hardest part: learning to live in the galaxy they had fought so hard to save. 3 months after the final battle, the Galactic Council chamber had been rebuilt and expanded. New sections had been added to accommodate the changed reality of the galaxy. Where once there had been 47 member species, now there were 40-8. Council Leader Hay 1 looked across the chamber at the new human delegation. They sat in specially designed seats that could accommodate their enhanced physiology. Some were more machine than organic now. Others seemed to exist partially outside normal space. All of them carried themselves with the quiet dignity of beings who had sacrificed everything for others. "The matter before us today," Hay 1 announced, "is the formal ratification of the Human Galactic Compact. This agreement will govern the relationship between humanity and the rest of the galactic community going forward." The negotiations had been difficult. Many species were afraid of the humans now. Their power was undeniable. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything else in the galaxy. Some representatives worried that humanity would eventually dominate or replace them, but others remembered who had saved them, who had died to protect them, who had chosen sacrifice over conquest when they could have easily ruled the galaxy. Ambassador Veltar stood to address the chamber. "The Rillan Empire has reviewed the proposed compact carefully. We find the terms surprisingly generous. That was an understatement. The humans were offering to share their advanced technology freely. They promised to help defend any world that was threatened. They asked for very little in return. We have one concern, Valtar continued. The humans request that all memorial services in their honor be discontinued. All museums dedicated to their heroic sacrifice be closed. All references to their extinction be removed from historical records. Wu Jin rose from the human delegation. He looked older now, worn down by the battles he had fought. But his voice was still strong. We do not wish to be remembered as noble failures, he said calmly. We do not want our children to grow up hearing stories about how bravely we died. We want to be known for how well we lived, how successfully we adapted, how effectively we protected those who needed protection. You want to control your own narrative, observed the representative from the Andorian Federation. We want to be honest about what we became, Sumin replied. Her glowing eyes had dimmed somewhat since the battle, but they still carried an otherworldly light. For 2 centuries we lived with the pain of letting you believe we were dead. We do not want future generations to base their relationship with us on a lie. Dr. Chang Min, who had been working closely with human scientists since the battle, stood to speak. The technology transfers alone are worth more than we can calculate. Medical advances that could extend lifespans by centuries. Energy systems that could power entire civilizations. Transportation methods that make interstellar travel as easy as walking across a room. And yet you ask for so little in return, noted Council Leader Haewon. Why? Kyung-ho answered, his cybernetic arm shifting into new configurations as he spoke. Because we remember what it was like to be limited, to be vulnerable, to need help from others. We will not use our power to dominate those who are still learning to grow. But you could, pointed out the representative from the Centauri Alliance. You could conquer us all in a matter of days. What guarantee do we have that you won't change your minds? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Several species representatives looked nervous. This was the fear that had dominated the negotiations from the beginning. Wu Jin stood again. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute sincerity. You have our word, he said simply. And if that is not enough, you have our actions. We had the power to conquer you 200 years ago, when we first began to evolve beyond our original limitations. We could have revealed ourselves at any time and demanded submission. Instead, we chose to hide, to sacrifice, to become something we barely recognized in order to protect you. Words can change, insisted the Centauri representative. Promises can be broken? Sumin's eyes flared brighter. Then let me show you something. She connected directly to the chamber's computer systems. Holographic displays appeared throughout the room, showing human colonies scattered across the galaxy. But these were not military installations. They were research stations, medical facilities, agricultural centers. This is what we have been building, she explained. While you thought we were extinct, we were creating infrastructure to support the galaxy. Facilities to help species develop their own advanced technologies. Research centers dedicated to solving problems like disease, hunger, and environmental collapse. The displays changed to show detailed plans, hospitals that could treat any species, schools that could educate beings from any world, factories that could produce whatever any civilization needed. We did not become powerful to rule, Kyung-ho added. We became powerful to serve. That is what humanity has always been about. Not conquest, but protection. Not domination, but cooperation. Council Leader Haewon studied the holographic displays. The scope of human preparation was staggering. They had not just evolved their own species. They had been planning to uplift the entire galaxy. There is one more thing, Wu Jin said quietly. Something we have not shared before. He gestured, and the displays changed again. Now they showed star charts marked with energy signatures that looked familiar. What are we looking at? Asked Admiral Hyosung. Other galaxies, Wu Jin replied. The void swarm was not unique to our region of space. There are similar threats in neighboring galaxies. Civilizations that are facing the same dangers we just defeated. The implications hit everyone in the chamber at once. The human fleet was gone, destroyed in the final battle, but the humans themselves remained. And they were talking about expanding their protection beyond their own galaxy. You cannot be serious, breathed Ambassador Veltar. You want to take on the entire universe? We want to make sure no other species has to face what we faced, Su Min replied. No other civilization should have to choose between extinction and transformation. No other people should have to become monsters to fight monsters. Council Leader He-1 felt a wave of emotion wash over her. These beings, who had given up everything human about themselves, were still driven by the most human impulse of all, the need to protect others. The vote, she announced? All in favor of ratifying the Human Galactic Compact? Hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose throughout the chamber. The count was unanimous. Motion carried. Hey, one declared. Welcome back to the galactic community, humanity. But even as the chamber erupted in celebration, Wu Jin remained standing. His expression was serious. There is one final thing, he said, his voice cutting through the noise. We need volunteers. The chamber fell silent. Volunteers for what? Asked Dr. Changmin. To become like us, Wu Jin replied. The threats in other galaxies will require forces we no longer have. We lost most of our people in the final battle. If we are going to protect the universe, we need others to join us. Others willing to undergo the same transformations we did. The silence stretched on. Everyone understood what he was asking. To volunteer meant giving up their original form, their original limitations, their original life. It meant choosing to become something more than they were, just as the humans had done 2 centuries ago. Finally, Dr. Changmin stood up. I volunteer. And I, said Admiral Hyosung. Count me in, added Captain Taemin from the military section. One by one, beings throughout the chamber began to stand. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, engineers, individuals from dozens of species, all willing to make the same sacrifice the humans had made. Wu Jin smiled. It was the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him since he had revealed himself to the council. Then we begin, he said. The galaxy is safe. Now let us make the universe safe as well. Outside the chamber, the stars shone with new promise. Somewhere among them, other civilizations were struggling against impossible odds. Other species were facing extinction, but help was coming, human help, and more than that now. The help of an alliance that spanned species and dimensions. An alliance dedicated to the simple principle that no one should have to face the darkness alone. The humans had returned, not as conquerors but as guardians. And they were no longer alone in their mission. The age of hiding was over. The age of protection had begun. And in the depths of space, reality itself seemed to bend in acknowledgement of a new truth. The galaxy had learned what humans were truly capable of when they had time to prepare. Now the universe would learn as well.